Welcome.
I'm at the beach. I'm not at Tech Exchange. Yeah. I think Joy's still getting set up there.
You can probably start hearing us now, but we are live from Tech Exchange, so getting our team all into spaces. You can see RJ, he'll be walking us through with his good old NeuralSeek hat. That's what we wanted. We're at the Mandalay Bay today, so you might hear a little hotel music in the background on my audio. And then RJ, I know that we're getting through the recording and live, so I'm going to start admitting people. And when you're ready to do the multi-agent and walk through the demo today, I'll be ready to go.
Yeah, I think I'm ready when you are.
Okay, well, everyone, welcome. Those who are joining us in the call today and those who are joining us in the live stream. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to RJ to walk us through our monthly updates.
Yeah, hey everyone. Am I sharing my screen? I don't think I'm sharing my screen. So used to having two monitors to see this. Hey, welcome everyone. Technical difficulties here. Give me a second. Okay, perfect. So, hey everyone, coming live from Tech Exchange, just to give you guys another update on NeuralSeek and some of the new stuff that's coming out, some of the stuff that we're talking about here at the booth, and kind of walk you through it. So, everybody's familiar with RAG, right? Our solution really gives you the explainability into your answers, a bunch of analytics, bunch of scoring about the answers that are given, right? So we kind of tell you what the answer is, what's being penalized, and all those metrics around it. How much meat is there to the answer? Is there unattributed key terms? Are we trying to make the system say something unsavory? Also kind of gives you the ability to drill down to documents, exact words that are coming out of your documents and where they're being used in the answer. So you can see like a bunch of green highlighting here from the stump speech document, and then like a few words, bits and pieces from other documents. So from here, right, Seek is our bread and butter retrieval augmented generation platform. So recently, I think my last webinar, we kind of touched on this coming out, but we've definitely matured the solution here for multi-agent. So an agent being a bundling of a knowledge source, large language model, and a task. So we've really built like a workflow editor around that so that we're able to take Seek API calls, user input, and route them through the system using, large language models and orchestration tools alike. Right here, we've got like the NeuralSeek category, pulls back to our default configuration. There's guardrails available at every level. So, of course, I have some guardrails set around our product, minimum confidence, warning confidence, generally blocking unsavory answers. We've got some prompt injection enabled. Then we can also like drill down to other categories. So we have, like a weather template. When I come into this, I can say like, what's the weather and should I wear a sweater tomorrow? Right? That's never going to be in your knowledge source, never going to be in your documentation live like that. It's something that you need to reach out for live product data, REST API, database, information that is not so static. So we can route those agents into our orchestration platform, allowing us to use live data, make decisions, disambiguate, open tickets, you name it. Then we have another category that's like chit chat where, everything's turned off. We can come in, talk about the weather. We can come in, um, you know, greet people, stuff like that, right? Everything effectively turn off. We have no minimum confidence. We have no minimum, semantic scoring, and model is disabled. Again, we're able to route to multi-agents, but we're also able to nest agents. So like in this example, right, we've got a LLM category where we define in natural language what this category means. Then we're also able to drill down even further and say like, we're talking about LLMs or asking a question. And then like we're also asking a question specifically about GPT. And we can say like, we want stricter guardrails about this because maybe we have a limited corpus and knowledge about it, or maybe it's more prone to hallucination, right? We can turn the guardrails up and we can say like, I want my minimum confidence for GPT to be like way up here, just so that we don't speak bad about the product, right? Same for like Granite Llama, Claude. One of the cool things about this is I have it set up to use a different language model based on where we route in the categories. So for this example, like Llama is answering questions for the Watson X Data AI platform, or I can switch it over effortlessly to Granite instead, right? Test and save, making these configuration changes effortless, right? From here, we can kind of look at governance and explainability. So one of our, newer features that I hope you're familiar with is our Seek logs. So we can come in here. I'm actually struggling a little bit because the Zoom thing is in my way. Need to minimize that. Yeah, so we'll just head over here. I have replay enabled in this instance. So explainability, right? We want to, store transactions to basically say, last week, Joy said something to the bot and it gave us an off the wall answer, it told us that we integrate with a platform that we haven't built an integration for. We say, there's a 0% interest mortgage rate that's available when that doesn't exist, right? We can kind of come back in here and say, like, where did we get the data for this and why did we give out this answer? So down to the word, like we blocked this answer, but why did we block it? So I can come into the semantic analysis and say like, this is why we scored it low, and then we blocked it. We can also freeze that point in time to say, maybe the documentation was updated. Now I can't reproduce it as a subject matter expert. I can replay that transaction and see at this point in time, and maybe, this document now has the answer where it didn't before. Effectively checking that off the list to say like, well, we already fixed this and this is no longer a problem. From here, to highlight some like kind of newer stuff, dynamic SQL is something that we do often. From here, we have some new features around code and SQL generation. So we have a new code toolbox that gives you a few tools to help like extract and sanitize content from the LLMs. I think that's meat and potatoes of the webinar this month, right? We have some exciting new stuff with multi-agent. We're able to, I can show you an example of that weather one, right? So let's come in here and like ask a question about NeuralSeek. We'll do it in this one. Yeah, so we already have this loaded. Gonna come in, ask like so instead of the traditional RAG application, this becomes a task. And we've said that it needs to be Maestro led. So from here, we categorize that as our weather category. and executed a Maestro flow from that, effectively saying like, here's some weather data from the REST API. Here's the user's question. Summarize the weather and answer the user's question. So, yes, if it's a low of 46 degrees and gusty winds up to 30 miles an hour, I want a sweater, right? So to kind of bring that over to the orchestration platform, we can load that template that I built, super basic, but we can build super complex flows out of this as well. So you can see we grab the Seek user input. We also grab last message context, language, intent, category name, and we're able to take that back, maybe customize the REST API call to get different data back, user location. Maybe I'm logged in and you have my, zip code. Then we can send this to the LLM and get a Gen AI answer, right? So recap the forecast and respond to the user. Then we pipe that right back up into the Seek tab as output. Very cool. We also are rolling out a, soft launching a chat feature. So we're able to come in and kind of test the flow of some of this stuff before it's exported to a virtual agent platform, right? So we can come in and tell me about NeuralSeek and see that flow. Easy. Then we can come in and yeah, perfect. So, just a easier way to test, get insights and, in the future deploy, right? I think that really sums it up. Maybe there's some questions in chat.
Hey, RJ, I know that you did answer it earlier, but we've been here live at Tech Exchange and they've been talking a ton about multi-agent. Would you just go back to the configure tab and I thought one of the more interesting with multi-agent is the weather maestro flow. Would you explain how a multi-agent works with a maestro flow versus a multi-agent working such as with the NeuralSeek? Go ahead. I'm looking at the answer 26 with those 26 answers in there. So kind of explain the difference with a maestro flow to one of those answers that you're seeing in the Seek tab.
Yeah. So with a Maestro flow, you have special templates that are built. When you build a template, we look for that seek in, seek out node to be present. So you can just drag and drop, build a flow, then come in here and select that flow as your target. For the other ones, for the RAG-based ones, these are really shortcuts over to our Curate tab, where you can add a category, add an intent. So I want, like a traditional virtual agent, you come in and, give it examples of how to ask a question and a desired answer. Then the answers is actually just a little shortcut right over to the Curate tab. So it brings us over to the Curate tab and automatically filters on that category. So in terms of multi-agent, right, we're able to, at each level kind of select do we want RAG? Do we want answer generation? Or do we want a Maestro-led orchestration tool to be used? Just highlighting that at each level we can set guardrails, set KB details, tune at each level, change answer preferences, enable logging at different levels, use different embedding models even, right? We can even set prompt engineering, answer engineering. I want this topic to be more verbose than a different topic. So yeah, anything else?
Oh, now RJ, you have me strumming with all of the ones on the questions there. I see one in the chat though.
Yep, I just saw that. Are all the example templates available to use for a Maestro-led configuration, or would I need to make a custom one? So generally, we would recommend that you take the example flow and use that as a starting point. Most of these are out of the box usable. So like, for example, disambiguation, you can use that right out of the box. So when we go to curate and I want to say like, this question specifically needs to be disambiguated, like maybe it's vague or some domain specific concept. We can say we want to use a disambiguation flow. This is just an example. So most of these you'll want to customize to your specific use case. If I select it, you can kind of see like an overview of what it is, but I would say typically you might want to update it just a little bit for language purposes or like with our document loader, you'd probably want to update it to be the correct like index name and things like that. It's like if I load that. So, when we have these example templates, we like pre-fill some data for you. You'll want to come in and edit these for like a document loader, then come in and like save that as your loader template, then come over to the load tab and use that saved one instead of our example. They do work, but they might not always do what you need them to do.
RJ, we've had a lot of questions while we've been here at Tech Exchange about the governance tab. Could you go over and feature some of the kind of the overview of the governance?
Yeah, happy to. So governance in NeuralSeek is really operational governance. So what operational governance is, it's really explainability of what happened when the question answer was generated and what we did about it. So in this example, it doesn't have a ton of data, right? Let me get this screen share moved over. This one has a little bit more data in it, right? So we can come in and kind of see like an overview of like how much prompt injection has been attempted. What have we done about that prompt injection attempt? Have we blocked a bunch of hate abuse profanity? Is there a bunch of questions containing PII? We can see, which intent's getting hit the most. Also kind of like semantic insights, like how long are answers? Do we have a lot of coverage? Are we stitching answers together from a bunch of documents? Are we hallucinating like crazy? Or do we want to say like this word is actually not a hallucination because it's our domain concept and we want to keep this? Can immediately from this list just allow this term. We no longer penalize that answer. Documentation insights gives us insights like confidence coverage and like which documents are being used the most. Like our main page is being used a lot, followed up by like the change log. And then like a lot of people must be asking about like NTL and uploading data. Farther down the list, like we get into intent insights. So for each agent, we can see what questions have been flowing through the system. Do I have a lot of coverage with a high confidence? We have a lot of documents that agree with each other and have a good answer. We have like, high coverage, but low confidence, which means, a lot of documents that may conflict. So we have a bad answer or don't speak to the answer. Then we have like low coverage, low confidence, which means we have no idea what we're talking about. There's no documents and we gave a bad answer. And then we also have like looking for like, low coverage, but a high confidence, meaning like we had a few documents, but they really spoke to that answer well. One new thing, we've had token insights for a little while. So like kind of get on the bring your own model plans, an overview of like how much you're spending. From here, we can also look at cost insights. So this is really a granular look at like all models by capability. So we can take a look and see like, are we spending a lot of money on a model when the next one down is like a lot cheaper or a lot more expensive for a step up or down in capability? Really gives you a little insight, to like, this model is very expensive, where this model right above it is not super expensive. A few models down, like this one's way cheaper and just as capable. Then we also do that on the Maestro side, right? So we have token insights, flow insights, cost insights on the Maestro side, like how much am I paying? Could I get it cheaper or more expensive if I just bump up or down models slightly in capability? Flow insights kind of give you an idea of like, how many Maestro templates are you running, how long they're taking, and also how well am I parallelizing in a Maestro flow. It's like you can see like a lot of this time was parallel runtime, which is good. I'm looking for another example. Yeah, yeah, these are all good. So you can also kind of get an idea of like, why we had a really slow template runtime. We can come through and see like a graph overview of how long these took to run. Um, again, for a good example. Yeah. Any other questions? I got a chat. Difference between tuning an LLM model and a RAG solution. Yeah. So good question. Um, Fine-tuning models can be costly, but there is some limited use cases where it makes sense. Traditionally, you would use a RAG solution to avoid heavy or intensive fine-tuning costs, right? There's a good example that came up this week of like, when is it a good idea to fine-tune a model? And the answer is when you have a lot of data that doesn't change often, you can use that fine tuning to offset cost on documents that don't change a lot. So we need to feed the model less to input tokens to get the same style or same content in an answer. RAG really bypasses a lot of that fine tuning effort and through chain of thought prompting we can get just as good of a response out of it, particularly when you combine that with a hybrid search approach like semantic search and X discovery or elastic. So really to summarize, the difference is like tuning a model is taking a lot of data and training the LLM on it. We're basically taking the base model and saying, here's a bunch of data, here's a bunch of tokens, these are the relationships between this word and this word, and it's a bunch of numbers built into the model, where RAG is taking the base model and saying, here's a user query, here's a bunch of documents that talk about the user query, using all available knowledge, answer the user's question. And that's where we lead back into like seek when we come in and ask a question and get an answer. It's prone to hallucination in that kind of solution, which is where we come into we come into the picture with like semantic analysis and scoring. Good questions. Anything else?
Well, thank you everyone for joining us this month. We have had a very full and delightful weekend. We've had learning labs here. We've had showcases, booths. We also want to shout out everything happening on our AWS and on our Azure side as well, as we've had trainings over there that have been happening across the country. So thank you everyone for connecting with us today. We look forward to connecting with you throughout the month, and we will rejoin next month in November for our monthly webinar session. If there's not any other questions, I'd like to tell everyone a big thank you, and we'll see you all later.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.